'cause she's a Jezebel. St. Andrew Jezebel, 'cause she's a Jezebel. St. Andrew Jezebel. Hey y'all, you're listening to Season 3, Episode 3 of the St. Andrew's Jezebel Podcast. If this is your first time listening, you've joined at a great time. My name is Ashley. I'm a third-generation Panama City native. I'm a musician, and I also volunteer for Floriopolis. This week, I am so excited to bring you an interview with Woods the Band. They're a local favorite family band. I just love them. They have beautiful voices, they're great songwriters, and they're super nice people, and I can't wait for you to learn more about them. After that, we'll go over a few community events happening in the month of April, and because the interview is a little on the long side, we'll skip the old news segments this week and bring them back next week. If you've been enjoying the podcast and would like to show your support, you can make a one-time donation on our Ko-fi page. I'll include it in the show notes below. Also, you might notice that the podcast is currently 100% listener supported, but if you'd like to sponsor an episode, just send me a DM and we can talk about it. For a more enhanced experience, follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram. The podcast is now available to stream directly from Facebook. So if you want to share your support, share this episode with all your salty friends. All right, y'all, let's get to it. This interview is awesome. I hope you love it. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite beer, and enjoy the show. Today we meet with Woods the Band, who are an up-and-coming Americana act comprised of a father, Chris Woods, and his two daughters, Emma and Lydia. The group is managed by Hope Woods, who is the wife to Chris and mother to the two young ladies. Woods the Band has been a favorite in the Panhandle for the last few years, and we are excited to welcome them to the St. Andrew's Jezebel Podcast. So, y'all, thank y'all so much for being here. To begin, how'd you get into music, Chris?
Well, Ashley, first of all, thanks for having us. We love everything that you do for the local music scene here in Panama City. You are one of the first people that we really noticed when we started getting out and about. We just love everything that you do, and we appreciate you having us on your show. So we're excited. Music has just been one of those things that has been, it seems like it's always been in our lives. Since the girls were young, we would play and sing. It seems like it's been kind of a generational thing with our family. Of course, we all learned to play and sing in church, and that was, from the time I was a kid. That's really where I got interested in music to begin with, because I was seeing people play music live in front of me 2 or 3 or 4 times a week, and so I started playing music at a pretty young age in that setting, and really, I've heard a lot of musicians talk about that experience, but for me, like being a part of that kind of sacred music that's also in the South, so it's got a whole lot of soul and rhythm thrown into it, and honestly, even some blues kind of thing, and that stuff just really latched onto me at a pretty early age. And by the time Emma was, I don't know, probably 6 or 7, she was a young thing. She really started to show an interest in music and singing, and we would sit around and pick songs out at home and all of that. And she got active in music in church. And that really we were off and running. If we weren't doing sacred music of one kind or another, we were sitting around singing folk songs or country songs or making up songs. It just became a huge part of our life, and I don't think any of us, including Hope, not a musician but as a music lover, I don't think any of us could imagine a life without music at this point.
Me neither. And so when did y'all make the decision to go from the living room to the stages within our local venues around here?
Well, Hope, you want to take that?
We were starting to kind of get out and about again post Michael. Honestly, wasn't even aware that an open mic was a thing. And I think we were there one day and that was going on. And I just remember thinking, well, we should do this. Like, seeing the girls should totally do this. And we were at Little Village, which was just one of our favorite places at that time to just go and eat tacos. And I had been at them for a while to get out and about with their music, but none of us really had any idea how to do that. And we had been pretty cloistered even before the storm in a lot of ways. So even realizing that there was a local music scene was new to us. And so we did our first open mic at Little Village. In fact, we did that 3 years ago within these next couple of days.
Yep, I think
that's right.
Yep, it was like March 26th or something like that of 2019. So it was that soon after the storm. They loved it. A lot of the people there loved it, and we hit the ground running.
Local music is just so interesting because it is such a variety of people and styles and all of that. And we always tell this story and have to give a shout out to Casey Phelps, who's a local
Yep.
musician in our local scene. And she, at that time, was running several open mics around town. She did one on Sundays at Little Village, and she was doing one, I think, on Wednesday nights at Funky Mermaid in downtown PC. And we had done a couple of those. And I think when we did that first Sunday afternoon open mic, we got some interest, and then we did something at Funky Mermaid, and we're getting gig offers that night. We didn't even I didn't have a PA. We had a guitar and a ukulele. And I'll never forget that we walked out the door from that Funky Mermaid open mic with like 3 gigs booked.
Yep.
I reached out to KC and said, what do I do now? And she loaned me a PA, showed up at that first Funky Mermaid show and helped me set everything up, and then came and got it afterwards and was just a huge help. What you need, to kind of realize that you do want to take a run at something like this. You need somebody like that who's got experience. So thank you, KC, for being a part of us.
I don't think we even realized at the time just what a huge thing it was for her to loan us her equipment, break it down. Now that we own our own and set up and break it down all the time, we realized, wow, like that was really kind.
Yeah, she's really sweet.
It's a lot. And then who better than Casey Phelps? I met Casey Phelps when I was about 12 or 13 years old playing music.
I mean, that's how old I was.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, there you go. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So, Hope, how have you been enjoying yourself in your role as the manager of Woods the Band, or the momager, as we sometimes call you?
I love it. And I mean, it's definitely, especially in the beginning, was a challenge for me. I'm not a very, socially active person. So it was kind of a twofold thing for me. One, and the most important part to me, was getting them out there and giving them a place to share their songs and their music and stuff. But it also was a way for me to kind of challenge myself to do something that was, difficult for me, which was just social interaction in general. And it really has, it's just kind of expanded my horizons in a lot of ways, and made me realize that this thing that I was so kind of afraid of and anxious about has turned out to now be just one of my absolute favorite things. I live for the Woods the Band shows. And of course, now we find ourselves out and about listening to others who have become friends and all of that. And it really has been, I can genuinely say that it has been one of the best things ever.
It really has been.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I love every time I see y'all play. I just light up. I haven't seen y'all in a while. What's new with
Well, there was a wedding.
That was my fault. I had to go through a wrench in gigs for a while.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's a good wrench, though.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's funny. We've always kind of explained it to people this way, but so many of our friends are, they make their livelihood through playing music around town. And for us, it's a hobby. We all have our separate things that we work on aside from this. And so that definitely plays into how often we're able to play.
Right.
And that's mostly it. And then, of course, just with all the extracurricular things going on around here, we find ourselves almost like we'll have these. We always break during the holidays some, because it's just such an insanely busy time for us. And we live up here close to our extended family, and so it's there's always something. There's always a birthday or a holiday or something going on, and because this is a hobby, a lot of times other things have to be prioritized over it. But we're also, over the last 3 years, really been able to kind of figure out ways to work around things, and we brought the whole family in on the calendar. And so, we have everybody's everything on the calendar, so we can see where we can work around all of that. And if something's really important to us, they work with us. And so, we shut it down and slowed down through the holidays. And then immediately after that, of course, was Emma's wedding, Emma and TJ, on February 5th.
Yes.
Awesome. Amazing. And that took up all of our time leading up to that. And so we're starting to crank up, and we have several things coming up.
And we're
Yes.
very excited to get back into it.
Yes.
Yeah, be back at it tomorrow night at Millie's.
Emma, you're teaching piano lessons. My friend Sarah Heath, her daughter Tilly, I think might have been taken from you at one time.
Yes. So I've been doing it actually for a couple years now. Christina Kettering, who is one of my favorite people, but I met her when I was at Gulf Coast and was actually a student of hers. And she invited me to come teach at her private studio, really as a mentorship at first. So it started out, I wasn't getting paid, but I was learning and I was getting the experience. And now I'm about 3 years down the road and I'm doing it, full time. I love it. I have really grown to love the melding together of two of my favorite things, which is music, of course, and piano has always been my primary instrument other than singing. And then teaching children, which I have discovered that is also a huge passion of mine. And so it's been super fun. Yet another way, like What's the Band, to interact with the community, which is one of my favorite things. So yeah, it's been super great.
That's fantastic. And now this is the question that I know everyone has. Is there plans for an album in the future?
The question.
Remember that thing we were talking about time?
Yes.
Well, I mean, for us, Ashley, the biggest thing, do we want to make an album or albums? Absolutely. Do we have material that we think is worthwhile? Yes. For us, it really has just been, and we have, again, with the local music community, we've made so many friends and people, even who aren't musicians or singers, like Tim Parrish comes to mind, or Miss Donna and Mr. Ken. They're music fans and they're promoters, and they try to push people to really to do more. When you see Mr. Ken out at a gig, he's always going to give you a hug and take your photo and put it on Facebook without asking you and all that, which is fine. But he's doing all of that because he just loves music and he wants more of it to be happening all the time. And people often ask us about recording, and we have friends in the local scene who have said, we want to help you record your music. We're so grateful for that. And I feel like that we're getting closer and closer to that.
We're working up to it.
Yes.
Yeah. It just feels like we've been waiting for the right circumstance and the right, people to help us capture the sounds that we like. And, when all of that clicks into place, I think all four of us really will be very excited about putting
definitely.
Putting a lot of
Oh,
attention
totally.
on that. Yeah.
That's a longtime dream of mine.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody's looking forward to it. I look forward to when time will allow for y'all to go about it, because I'm sure it'd be awesome. Now, Lydia, I missed your art show. I really wanted to be there. How did it go, and where can folks continue to find your art online?
It was amazing. And I think it's still up in Taproom for a few more days until the end of March. But opening night was very surreal, being there with my friends and family and seeing like my art up on the walls. It was nothing I'd even ever considered being in an art show until my parents signed me up for the one at Taproom as a birthday present for my 16th birthday a few months ago. And I've always wanted to put my art out more. Right now, all I've been doing up until the art show was posting on Instagram, but I hope to do more things like that in the future. Possibilities of like making an Etsy shop or selling around town, but I haven't really figured out what that will be yet.
Well, we look forward to seeing everything you do, because I love how whimsical your artwork is and that you're continuously going at it. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes.
And we appreciate Matt Cole and Taproom for making
seriously.
a place for visual art in Panama City that's easily accessible. It's one thing to go to a gallery and see art, but man, if you can go to your favorite local bar and drink a beer or a cider or a kombucha and walk around and look at it, it's even better.
Taproom starting art shows was like an actual game changer.
Yeah, for real.
A moment ago, you were mentioning that a lot of the reason you may not have recorded an album is because y'all have a family business, and that family business has to do with agriculture and farming. Can you tell us a little bit about your family farming business?
Yeah, this is all, I always like to tell people we are veteran homesteaders, but fledgling farmers. So, and I guess what I mean when I say that is, I grew up doing this with my parents my whole life. My dad always made sure that we had land. And even when we lived in town for a short amount of time, most of the places we lived were Bayou George, Bear Creek, very rural areas. But when we were school age and attending school, we moved into town for a little while. And even then we had 5 acres. and horses and chickens and
Wow.
gardens and all of that. I grew up around it and fell in love with it as a child. When we were given the opportunity several years ago, we moved away for a while to Virginia so that C could attend grad school, and we moved back home in 2012. And we were given the opportunity then to move on to our parents' land that they have established up here in Bear Creek. What he did was he just offered each of his 3 girls, I'm the oldest of 3 girls, he offered each of us 5 acres if we ever wanted it and wanted to build a home or whatever we wanted to do with it. So we built our home here on the family farm. My middle sister and her husband and their family were already here. And then we were the second ones to move up here back in 2016. And then in 2019, my youngest sister moved up here. So there are 18 of us total, and we all together in our separate homes. Always like to make sure we're not all like living together in the house. We're all separate corners of the farm. And Dad has always loved cows, and so he raised beef, and there would always be enough for us to have some every once in a while, and he would share from his garden, and then we all just kind of picked up our own things along the way. And I found out that I love gardening, and so that kind of became my thing. And so everybody kind of counted on me for vegetables, and Mom and Dad continued to do beef and of course their own small garden. And then my middle sister Shanna and her husband Jonathan started doing chickens for meat and eggs, and again just enough for the family. And then I don't know, about a year or so ago, we started to just kind of talk about, well, I mean, what if we just expanded all of this a little bit, because some of our children who are coming up, there are 10 grandchildren, so 10 little cousins, we're starting to really express an interest in doing this and being part of it. And they were getting a little bit older, so it wasn't like a 6-year-old saying, "Ooh, I want to be a farmer when I grew up." They're 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds out here wanting to work and wanting to farm, and that was really kind of all what we needed to move in that direction. So we just started expanding slowly but surely. A few more head of cattle, a few more chickens for eggs and meat, and then we started adding pigs, and so now we have pork, and all of this is still very new to all of us. We're feeling our way through all of it, but we just knew there was a need for good local food raised regeneratively and humanely, and we wanted to be the ones to meet that need. So that's what we've been working on for the last year or so. And you can follow all of that at Heritage Farms, which is just basically the 4 households working together to provide the community with the overflow from our land, which is, it takes a little while. Like overnight, we could decide to suddenly have enough for everybody. We're still, every year we're adding more gardens, more beef, more pigs, more chickens, and all of that. I've got one of my favorite things is I've got 4 little sheep. They're Gulf Coast native sheep, and they're the only breed of sheep that are known to be like native to this area. And they think they're kind of a mixed breed that the Spanish brought over in the 1500s and then just kind of left alone. And over these last hundreds of years, they've evolved to be really resilient to the hot, wet climate and all of that. And they're making a comeback. So there's kind of an effort along the southeast to raise and breed these sheep in order to get the numbers back up where they used to be a long time ago. They're pretty rare right now. So I'm really proud of my 4 little ewes. So. But yeah, that's the short answer, believe it or not.
One of your other side ventures is also herbology and apothecary work. Can you tell us some about that?
Yeah, sure. That actually became a passion of mine a long time ago. And I was just seeing some physical and emotional issues with my small children. And I just started to, on my own, try to figure out, okay, what's going on here? And I started just observing different things about like when they ate certain things, how it would affect their behavior, and that's kind of when I started to educate myself about more natural ways of living, just things like organic versus regular, and the hormones in meat and milk and all that stuff. But one of the first things that I really kind of came across just in my research with all that caught my attention was herbalism, and just the way that I could, basically care for my family in that kind of natural way using plant medicine as opposed to pharmaceuticals and things like that. And that really appealed to me. And I wanted to learn more because, I didn't want to make any mistake in treating and nurturing the kids. And so I took a local herbal class. This was Lord, this was back before Luke was born. So it would have been in like 2002. There was a little herbal shop there on 23rd Street, and I went down every night for like 2 weeks and got a little certification. And then I went on to attend the Trinity School of Natural Health and got the certification for a master herbalist. Took a couple of years. And even now I've signed up for another round with Rosemary Gladstar. And it's just, I don't know, I have kind of fallen in love with plants. And it's kind of opened a whole world of, you know, the benefits of all of those. And it's just, I just get super nerdy about plants. And so I just am constantly wanting to learn more. So that's how all that came about.
I love that. I think a lot of the truth that we're looking for can be found in plants and birds. Look at those two things.
Yep.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm a total bird nerd too. So.
and the truth is, like, Hope's dedication and passion for that stuff has helped all three of us, the musicians,
yes,
in one way or another over time. You know, more than once. I used to have a terrible time with allergies. She completely fixed me with herbal therapy. Like, I didn't have to go get a prescription or see a physician. Hope did some research and figured out how to address this issue, and I don't suffer with that anymore. And I did my entire childhood. Same thing with Emma and Lydia, have both benefited from her, you know, knowledge about this stuff. And it really is neat to see how just her interest in plants has turned into something that directly, you know, improves our quality of life, like on a daily basis. It's really neat.
I think just an overall life living close to nature and the earth is extremely beneficial. And then any rabbit hole you want to take from there, you know, the benefits of your pets and your animals, you know, and being surrounded by them, and the benefits of, you know, just being outside, and the vitamin D you get from the sun, and the oxygen you breathe from, you know, that the trees are purifying, and all of that stuff. It's just, it's a life for us. It's a life close to the earth. It's been eye-opening and extremely beneficial for us in all the ways.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thanks for doing all that you do. So let's talk about where we met. I believe we met in St. Andrews, probably a little village. What do y'all love about St. Andrews?
Oh my gosh. Some of all of our favorite businesses are down there, like Taproom. I go to Amavida all the time. Every restaurant down there, like, there are so many amazing small businesses and restaurants and just places to hang out down there.
Yeah, and for me, it's such a sense of familiarity, because I cannot think of a time I can't really think of a time before we went to St. Andrews. Like, it's one of those places where I can go to one of these businesses and tell you, I was here for this high school memory, or like, I was here last week. It's always been one of those places secondary to my home that I can go there and I feel comfortable. I feel safe. I feel very connected to my community, and I have loved watching it throughout all the seasons of my life grow and expand in ways, but also stay very much the same. And that is something that I love to see, you know, around here. It's a very special little nook in our community.
It really is.
I was 10, tagging along with Emma and her friends going to Amavida in the park. And then now I'm taking my friends there. Like, it's stayed the same for us.
Yeah, and I see that. I mean, I can kind of see that on the faces of people who are visiting Panama City and our area.
Yeah.
And, you know, for people who might happen to hear this podcast that don't live in the Panhandle and aren't really familiar with our area, most people who travel to visit stay out on the beach, Panama City Beach. And not all of those people even know to come east of Hathaway Bridge into Panama City proper and to check out St. Andrews and downtown. But when they do, I've never met anyone who was a tourist in St. Andrews at any of the local, you know, joints or restaurants or shop or just hanging out in the park who was like, why am I here? I'm going to go back to the beach. They're kind of shocked, really, to find, I thought this was just a beach town, but here is all this culture and this, you know, these hardworking people and artisans and businesses and all this stuff. And it really just it feels like that. It feels like a community of people that love where they live and that love to have the opportunity to create and to put whatever it is about them that makes them unique, that makes them St. Andrews to put it out and to share it with the community.
Yes.
And it's just, there's nothing like it. It really is a sweet spot in
It
Bakersfield.
It really is.
C has roots there in St. Andrews. Both sides of his family, their parents lived, his grandparents on both sides lived in St. Andrews. His parents lived in St. Andrews. He grew up around there until, I don't know, C, how old were you when y'all
Probably 7 or 8 when we
7
moved
or
up
8
to
when they
College
moved
Point. Yep.
over to Lynn Haven. But up until then, you could find both sides of the family in St. Andrews. So there's a lot of history there for us, having grown up here and family history and all of that. Grandfather Charles Woods was a dentist, and his office was right there in St. Andrews. There are still people to this day who see that his last name is Woods and ask him, "Did you know Dr. Woods?" And my grandfather, and yeah. It's definitely a home away from home for us. If we're gonna take off and kind of go through the trouble of making the drive into town to do anything, we're pretty much making a beeline for St. Andrews.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's gonna start there anyway.
Like you said, it's the sweet spot.
Yep.
So if y'all could play any venue, where would it be and why?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Is this local or like literally anywhere?
Like on Mars if you want.
Oh, Lord.
Ooh, Mars?
Oh, gosh.
There are two that come
I
mind
have two in mind.
And the first one is definitely the Ryman. We
Yes.
talk about
That was one of mine.
about that a lot. Like, how amazing would that be?
Yep.
And also, like, for me, just nostalgia wise, the Grand Ole Opry. I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I would. That would just be the penultimate for me to sit in the audience and to see my husband and my daughters on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think both of those are incredible. I think Red Rocks would be just
I was gonna say that.
Just totally mind blowing.
Yeah.
To have, even if there were only like 50 people there, still just to play to that natural beauty would be amazing.
Yes.
And to keep it a little more realistic, I have to say the St. Augustine Amphitheater, because that is an amazing venue. Hoping I have wonderful transcendent memories there of shows that changed our lives. Yeah. And I think it would be amazing to play a show there. And maybe that is one that might actually happen one day.
Yes.
My favorite kind of shows have always been like the smaller, more personal, like listening room types. Now I love to be like super loud out on like fins and all that, but I have always loved the close and personal, like kind of clubby listening room types.
Yes.
All great choices. And it's funny you mention the St. Augustine Amphitheater, Chris, because I'm about to go there and see Billy Strings next week.
I love Billy Strings.
I'm jealous.
Yeah,
it's going to be a great show. We're
a
bunch of girls getting together, getting an Airbnb, and we're going to go to the show.
That's fantastic.
That sounds like fun.
What's something you wish the public knew about the life of a creative they might not already be aware of?
Okay, for me, what comes to mind first and foremost is just how important it is. I think a lot of times this sort of thing gets kind of brushed off as extracurricular. Yeah, I mean, music's great, art's great, but who's got time for that kind of thing, But I think the number one lesson, as far as I'm concerned, that I've learned being out and about and part of the creative community is just that it absolutely is important. I would even go so far as to say that it's vital. I don't think that we've ever left a show, whether we were playing or listening, that we did not feel uplifted and just kind of, encouraged, whatever you want to call it. But we always leave feeling better than we came. Even if we feel really great when we get there. And you just, after a while, you start to realize when you've gone a while without looking at some art or listening to some music in person, because there's definitely a big difference in playing your Spotify list and, scrolling Instagram than actually being in a gallery or being at a show. Once you've done that a few times, you start to really kind of realize this is helping me. I think that I would want people to understand that if you're a musician, we need you. We need to hear what you offer, whether you think you're great or not. You've got something to offer, and same with the artist. And then as a listener, I would want people to just give it a chance, like get out a few times and listen and see if you don't feel the same way.
Yep.
My kind of mine kind of bounces off of Mom's. Music is an outlet like nothing else ever could be. Like, it's hard to even explain if you're not a musician, like, what it does to you, whether like you got emotions you can't get through, don't understand, or you just want to yell for a while. Like, music has always been just an amazing outlet. And also, it's insane to think that you could create something, you could write something, and then other people could really connect, or it could be important to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, just the promise of being able to share your music with people is really amazing.
Yes.
So true.
Yeah. I mean, mine really goes along with the other two. I feel like I have realized recently, no matter what you're talking about, just about being creative in general, is how inescapable it is. Like, you don't wake up and decide like, oh, I'm going to be a creative person. It's like this draw. And I know I've gone through seasons of my life where, this maybe something difficult's going on, or maybe I'm just busy doing other things, but there's always that nagging and that pull towards these things that are, an outlet and are something that, you benefit from, but you can also use to help other people. And, just living the day-to-day life, sometimes it's annoying feeling like, feeling so pulled towards this. But I think that's one of just, one of the things that comes with the territory. It's just that inescapable draw towards, fill in the blank.
Just to put an end on that, as essential as art is, it's also, I think, for me anyway, it's essential to have people to share it with. And the one thing that I would want people to know about me and us, when we're doing shows, we are just always like overwhelmed with just gratitude, gratefulness for even having people that care enough to sit through one song, not to mention people that actually appreciate and enjoy what we're doing and come to us and tell us that. I am just constantly overwhelmed with thankfulness to even have the opportunity to share all of this with our community, the people that we live with. If you're from Bay County, you can't overlook the whole Hurricane Michael thing. And it really did music and art, and even like food and this Southern culture that we live in. All of that, I think, is what brought us back from a really, a point where it was touch and go there for a little while of even knowing if our community would come back. And that's, as a creative person, that's what I want people to know that maybe don't feel like they're not creative. These performers and stuff necessarily want the spotlight. Like Emma said, it's something that you almost have to do. And I just feel overwhelmed that people even care enough to show up and listen. It's really amazing.
Yes, it is.
Both ends of the spectrum are really something to think about. Where are y'all playing in April? Anywhere around locally?
Taproom, the famous Taproom that we've been discussing and praising. We're playing on April 30th, and then lots more to come, which you can follow us on our socials.
Fantastic. Speaking of which, Momager, how can folks reach you online and beyond?
We are on Instagram and Facebook, both at Woods the Band. I think that's it.
We share all of our stuff on there.
Yep, we keep those updated, Facebook and Instagram, Woods the Band.
Fantastic. Y'all have done your first podcast.
We did it.
This is the most people I've ever interviewed at once. And
we come in packs.
We're a package deal.
It's a good day. And thank y'all so much for being on the show. And we'll be glad to have you again, hopefully next time in person. But until next time, keep St. Andrews salty. One of the best things about St. Andrews is that you can see live music every day. That's right. There is live music being played somewhere in St. Andrews 7 nights a week. Fortunately, my friend Ken Schaefer creates and publishes a weekly schedule for St. Andrews as well as most of Bay County. Ken's spreadsheet schedule is updated often when there's any changes. Ken also shares individual music events and is walking the walk and talking the talk when it comes to supporting live music. Not only does Ken supply the music schedules, but he attends several music performances a week and takes fantastic photos of the musicians. As a working musician myself, I feel blessed to have Ken and his wife Donna as treasured members of our local musical family. Make sure you like and follow Ken's page, Salty Sounds in St. Andrews, and Oh Boy Music on Facebook, so that you'll always know where all the live music will happen. Thank you so much, Ken, for everything you do. This year, Earth Day is happening in the Oaks by the Bay Park at 10 a.m. April is National Poetry Month, and Poem in Your Pocket Day is April 29th. Thank y'all so much for listening to Season 3, Episode 3 of the St. Andrews Jezebel Podcast. As always, if you'd like to support the podcast, please visit our Ko-fi page where you can make a one-time donation. Make sure you tell all your salty friends to follow us on Facebook so you receive a notification every Thursday when episodes go live. Our theme song was written by me and recorded by Dave Schwartz on the campus of Gulf Coast State College. The rest was written by me and recorded in my music room, with the interviews recorded at Floriopolis. See y'all next Thursday. Till next time, keep St. Andrews salty.